What the fuck do I say? Fucking hell. If you have just started your gym journey and you are trying to go through a leg day, but you're feeling a bit, you know, spooky about going into the full-on section and you just want to work with a couple of dumbbells in the studio and just be a little bit alone, this session is for you. So follow along. I'm going to talk you through. You're going to grab yourself a couple of dumbbells. We're going to go over how to build some legs, some glutes, whilst not having to go into too many areas that are scary just yet. I lost what I was going to say. But just before we do that, do make sure to let me know whether you prefer advanced videos, beginner videos, what kind of stuff that helps you out in the gym most. Let me know down below or drop me a message. Anyways, let's grab our dumbbells and let's jump straight in. So we're starting off with dumbbell hip thrust. So you can either grab a bench, put it on a bit of a decline, or just a flat bench depending on your height, or use a box or anything around. This is the easiest way to get into it, just by popping it on your hips and then kind of shuffle sliding down into your hip thrust position. I do have another video on my channel which goes through my top tips, tricks and etc for hip thrust, so if you want to go and watch that, then do it. But really, you're just looking to take it slow and make sure that you're getting that full range of motion. Make sure that those knees are directly stacked over your heels at the top of the rep to get optimal glute use over everything else, and then be sure to use your hands to lightly support your dumbbell. Something you want to just be aware of when you're using a dumbbell is not to hold the dumbbell with your hands and then use all your hands and your upper body to kind of hold that weight. Make sure we're using the lower body. If that movement is a little bit easy for you, or you want to start slowly advancing it, you can work your way slowly up to a single leg variation. So this is going to be just the same, but just one leg here. So single leg positioning. I'd recommend holding the dumbbell how I do here in the video, with a little diagonal line, and then again one hand softly. Start with maybe 12 reps with a slightly lighter weight. Go for a little bit heavier for 10 reps, and then the last set go a little bit heavier and try for 8 reps. Single leg hip thrust, you can also hold your dumbbell like this, where you balance on top of your hip and then hold 2 or 1 hand on the very top of the dumbbell and use that to support. I personally don't like this way. I find it's very difficult when the weight gets quite heavy and a little bit awkward, but some people love it. So try out what works for you, and if you're finding that a bit awkward, then go for this variation as shown in that diagonal line and one hand supporting the top. So you can alternate, try what works for you, but just make sure that you've got that good bench set up first for maximum stability and support, and then you can start playing around with dumbbell weight and hand position as well. Next up, we got another classic leg movement. It is the reverse lunge, just aiming for 3 sets of 8 to 10 reps on each leg here. This is your classic type of lunge movement. You can, if you're struggling to do these, just keep your feet still. So go out into a lunge and you don't have to step back in. You can just keep your feet planted. But a reverse lunge is a little bit better. You get a little bit of movement going on there. I would recommend holding the weight in the opposite hand to the leg that is working. So whatever leg is going to stay in front, the other hand is going to hold that dumbbell. That's going to get you a little bit of glute use as well in your stabilizing, and should just help with your balance a little bit too. If you need to hold on to something with your free hand, you can absolutely do that if you need a little bit of support and stability. These ones are going to help you work up to more complex movements like split squats and other type of barbell lunge variations. Now, if you want to get a little bit more range of motion, you want to start advancing it, then you can go for this elevated variation. So popping a step or a box or a plate underneath that front foot and doing the same movement, but you're just going to get slightly more depth. Do be sure that your back knee goes all the way down into the floor of the bottom. My biggest tip and thing to note about when you're starting off learning how to do a lunge variation is thinking about your foot placement when you're stepping back and when you're stepping in. Oftentimes people find the balance really difficult here because they get this foot placement slightly incorrect. So what people tend to do is think about doing it on a tightrope, where they try and cross the leg that's going backwards behind the front leg, as if they are on a tightrope or a balancing beam. Instead, think about the train track method, that your feet are separated and that you are standing with one foot on either side of a train track. You should always keep that space between your feet when you step back and when you step in. Next up, we are covering a squat variation here. So on these ones, we're going to go for a sumo squat, little tiny bit more glute focused, and also is good to be able to load with a dumbbell because you can hold the weight in between your legs like shown. You can do this with one dumbbell, or you can hold a dumbbell in each hand, completely up to you. But on this sumo, we're going for a wider stance and toes slightly flicked out. We're trying to think about pushing the hips back and bending the knees, all of this happening at the same time, and trying to get that full range of motion and depth so you're getting as low as you can. Make sure to keep those arms straight underneath you holding that weight. So again, we're not pulling the weight up with the arms, we're using the legs to carry yourself throughout this entire rep. Be sure on this movement that you're not squeezing your glutes at the top. We're not trying to thrust those glutes forwards like hip thrust and throw your back out of the top. Take it slow and just take your time. Keep your hips behind you the entire rep. I'd go for a similar thing here as the hip thrust, 12 reps, 10 reps, then 8 reps, slowly increasing the weight on each set. Now, if you want to, again, advance this one a little bit, make it slightly more difficult, then you can use an elevation just like in the lunges. So you can either use a plate underneath each foot, or a stepper underneath each foot, or a box underneath each foot, anything really that works. Again, the higher the elevation, the harder. Now, only do this if you have the hip mobility to do so, and you're finding that the original range of motion is already easy. Again, you can hold a dumbbell in 2 variations, either the way you're just holding it, or in this variation that I'm showing here, where you just hold the top of the dumbbell. But again, you need to make sure that you're using that full elevation. So make sure you're getting as low as possible, and that dumbbell is going all the way to the floor. You're going to find you get more range of motion if you hold the dumbbell in its original placement that I showed, with it on its side. So make sure you're going super low, so that dumbbell goes all the way to touch the floor. Otherwise, you won't be using that elevation to get any more range of motion. Those elevations just there for extra stretch and extra range of motion if you're capable to do it. If you're finding you can't get this low, then just don't bother using the elevation just yet. You might not quite be ready to add that, but you can remember to keep it for future if you want to start advancing your movement further. And finally here, we're ending up on a little bit of an isolation superset. So we're going to start off with a dumbbell clamshell. So on your side here, knees bent to a 90 degree and supporting yourself on your elbow. The dumbbell is going to rest just in kind of the middle of your thigh here. And we're going to open up to a big clamshell. So top knee is driving to the sky and your hips are driving forwards, pushing through those glutes. Thinking about the bottom glute lifting you up off the floor and the top glute opening up against that dumbbell. Again, just use your hand to support the dumbbell there. Try and make sure the legs are doing the work. So those are your dumbbell clamshells, 10 to 12 reps on each leg, and then straight in to a dumbbell kickback or donkey kick, whatever you want to call this. We're going into a tabletop all 4 position. Dumbbell is going to lay across the back of your knee, or your knee pit, I'm going to call it. And then from there, you're going to flex your foot, making sure to hold that dumbbell within that knee pit. And from here, just letting your knee come down to the floor and then pushing your heel up into the sky. We're not trying to extend and straighten the leg. We're trying to keep that leg bent in the 90 degree and push your heel into the sky. Make sure that your core stays really engaged here and you're focusing on using that glute to lift that weight. Don't let your back kind of do this twerking movement where we're rounding and arching in your spine. We're not in the club. We're trying to keep everything nice and engaged. Now again, this exercise, these 2 exercises, 10 to 12 reps on each leg as a superset. So you'll go from that clamshell straight into that kickback and then take a rest. And that is it, guys. Super beginner friendly. Dumbbell only leg day, which is going to get your glutes and your legs popping in just a matter of weeks, and I promise you that. Do be sure that you started that workout with a nice dynamic warm up and finished it off with a static stretch cool down at the end. If you're not sure what those should look like, be sure check out the rest of my channel. There is plenty of warm up routines and also stretch stretching routines as well, which you can follow before and after that workout. But hopefully you found it okay. Do let me know how you got along, what was your favorite exercise, what was your least favorite exercise, and how you felt throughout the workout. For now, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you very soon back again for another video, and let me know what other beginner friendly workouts would you like to see. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.